Hello and welcome to Story Time. Have you ever just wanted to curl up on the couch and read a good book, but didn't feel like reading? Well, how about listening to one instead? Today's book is called Shadowfall, Book 1 of the Godslayer Chronicles by James Clemens. Page 1, Interlude. In darkness, it glides, its shadow seeking the light. Its true name cannot be spoken within the logics of flesh and breath. It is no more than a trembling, a dark vibration along the plain that lies beneath rock and storm. It has no form, no shape, no substance. Netherin. That is its being, but not its name. It is a creature of the nether, that vast and empty void. It glides up to one of those rare places where its existence overlaps into the world of substance. Few know of these Morty points, but they exist. Just as the sea rides up onto a rocky shore, so do the tides of the nether roll against the world above. The nether finds a hidden estuary, an opening where its world and the upper world blend and shift. Rising, it swims up a choked channel, silty with substance, into the world above, abandoning the nether for below. It enters the depths of a black sea, birthed into the icy waters. Light never reaches these depths. Here is eternal darkness, blurring where one world ends another begins. But the Netherin knows its way. It's been told, instructed, willed. The shadow creature rises through the cold, dark sea. It shudders and gains form, drawing bits of luminescent light from the ocean. The depths are small, but they thrum through its being, vibrations of pleasure. It sails upward. More and more life is drawn, substance builds layer by layer, like barnacles on a ship's keel. Form and shape bloom out of nothingness. Pressure lifts as aquamarine moonlight bleeds down, bathing the nether creature's new form. As it enters the surface, schooled fish flee in clouds of scale. Even a monstrous rill shark flicks its muscular tail and vanishes. Unconcerned, it allows them to escape. It has all the substance and structure it needs for this world. It tests its black limbs, its long snaking tail, and swims upward out of the dark womb. At last, the Netherin breaks the waves with a crested head, and breathes the night's salt-soaked air, testing its lungs. Lidless eyes shine with a light that does not belong to this world. It stares across the foam-limbed waves toward the distant shore. Islands breach the waves, shoals, reefs, atolls, volcanic peaks, an archipelago, the submarine isles. A hiss escapes the broken fish bones that make up its teeth. It swims towards its destination, the largest island of the archipelago. Eyes reflect the flickering light that sparkle from the isle's crowned peak and spills down its slopes to the sea, describing homes, streets, and ramparts. A few lamps even skip out into the waters, making moored fishcrafts and masted deep whalers. The Netherin ignores all, knowing its purpose. As it crosses the ring of reefs, none know its undulating passage. Even the lesser moon hides her face behind the fog and cloud. The Netherin moves through the seawater as easily as through the insubstantial reality of its home. Land rises beneath the waves. The Netherin resists touching such solidness, gliding through the shallows, remaining in water for as long as possible, but soon, force and blood and promise drive it from the waves. Clawed feet dig into the sand. Climbing upright, it balances with a long tail. Though it wears flesh and bone, edges blur with the shadows of the dark beach. It does not belong here. It steps forward. It must. Water sluices from the assassin's shoulders as it lurches forward. Steam rises from its scales. Claws drip with more than water. It moves across the sand, turning each step to molten glass behind it. It has come here to slay a god. Some nights simply never end. Tyler de Notch rolled to one knee atop the broken cobbles and wiped blood from the scrub of dark beard under his chin. A moment ago tossed off the wooden frog, He had landed hard on an arm that was more club than limb. His support had given way, slamming him face down onto the unforgiving street. As he kissed the stones, he was reminded of an old adage concerning the submarine owls. A good night can last forever, but a bad night lasts even longer. On his knees now, Tyler prayed for this particular evening to end. Forget raising a pint and acknowledging, if only to himself, the 13th pass of his birth year. He wished only for his lone bed in the garret over the fisherman's shop. But that was not to be. He would be lucky to see sunrise. Tasting blood from his split lip, he swept his gaze right and left as he sought any means of escape. Up street spread the terraces, palacios, and gardened heights of those with enough wealth to enjoy the cooler breeze of the Owl's cliffs, leading up at last to the white castellan that blazed atop the summer mount. Guarded heavily, there would be no escape in that direction, nor down streets. That direction led to the crooked alleys, horrid corners, and dark narrows of the lower punt. Safety never lay in that direction. So trapped in the middle, he faced his adversaries, Bargo and Yorga. The pair of bulky A-men bore matching tattoos on their shoulders, two halves of the same slave ring. Once bonded and linked combatants in the blood circuses, they were now free men. Only their sport hand it changed. Yorga fingered ebony gilt beads woven into a lock of his mud-brown hair, tavern shield beads, marking him as a hired guardsman to the alehouse. At his side, Bargo, the one still with his tongue, barked, "Goodly Master Rhine, don't take to punt scabbards crawling into his tavern a begging." Tyler's eyes narrowed, kept his post in the street, knowing better than to protest his innocence. He'd come to a tavern with 2 brass pinches, plenty for a pint, but it seems he had chosen the wrong tavern. He knew better than to risk the establishments of the high city. This wasn't his place. Yet sometimes he forgot himself. Sometimes he simply sought some memory of a different life. He shut out such thoughts and crouched on the cobbles as a warm, black rain misted from the dark skies. It was not the pleasant, cleansing downpour of a true storm, but more of a fog that trapped the day's heat and held it to the aisles. Still, it wasn't the weather that pebbled Tyler's brow with sweat and made his ragged clothes suddenly seem too tight. Yorga balled up a fist, a garbled sound flowing from his scarred throat. Laughter. The pair of armed men strode out from under the creaking sign of the wooden frog. Tyler was to be their amusement this night. Yorga came first, all fist and muscle, little finesse, but skill was not needed against Tyler, at least not any longer. Once a shadow knight, Tyler previously could have taken both with hardly a wind, but the graces had been stripped from him along with rank and title. Additionally, the empty vessel left behind had been broken by a half-decade spent in the slave rings of trick. His sword arm was a callous club, numb from the elbow down. His leg had fared no better. One knee was a knot of locked bone from an old hammer blow, and the other slow and painful. Even his back was crooked, tightened by scars from the whip. He was no knight, not any longer, yet his shadow master at Tashijan had taught him not to depend on the graces. A cuff usually accompanied his instructor's gruff words. Remember, the deadliest grace comes not from a god, but from the heart and mind of a concerned man. It seemed a small lesson compared to the size of the combatants here. The hulking Yorga, bare-chested and sweating of ale, outweighed Tyler by half. "When we're done with you in the streets," the armed man warned, roughly grabbing his crotch, "we're going to finish you in the alley. We always wanted to bugger a shadow knight." Tyler narrowed one eye. Finally, it was clear why these two had chosen to hanger him. It wasn't his shabby attire, nor even his broken form. It had been the stripes tattooed on the sides of his face, running in jagged lines from the outer corner of each eye to ear, heralding his former rank, forever marking him. 3 stripes, one for page, one for squire, one for vile knight. What he had once borne with pride was now a mark of disgrace.